destiny.
Reason I'm not a Muslim. Children, zero when your prophet used to muggle. Listen, Muhammad was taking children as wives. One he married at 6 and consummated at 9. He was somewhere in his 50s trying to get in and draw. She wasn't even 10 yet, still playing with dolls. So they try to hit me with the older times were different, rationalizing atrocities. Now you sound like Christians. I charge the views on women as sickening. Either update the culture or just fade into history. But either way, this looks like imprisonment. But worse is that the prisoners don't know that they're prisoners. Even defend the tactics that are used to imprison them. A conquered mind trying to conquer brother mind selling other heroes.
I know my destiny.
To rock with these fans. If I never get a million, I settle for these fans. Cause at least with them I never have to change who I am. Record label off the table, I'ma stay my own man. Cause I rock with those that rock with these fans. If I never get a million, I settle for these fans. Cause at least with them I never have to change who I am. Record label off the table, I'ma stay my own man.
I know my destiny.
Chop it up. 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 Chop it up.
Ooh, now that's a sweet taste.
I
like that little change in the intro there, Oz. You did the damn thing.
I wanted to comment on that. That was ill. that was ill.
Thank you. I literally comment on that directly too. So just give it flowers. Listen, I ain't never heard that version of Stockholm Syndrome. I've never heard that version of Rock With Me.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever did that, I'm willing to pay him. Like, yo,
that was
ill. Was that you, Oz?
That was me, man.
Hey, man, you're ill,
a beast
bro.
over there, Oz.
You're ill as fuck.
Yeah.
You know, we have special guests tonight, so we do it big. That's what we do. But welcome, obviously, folks, and welcome in the chat. Another episode of Chopping It Up with Jena and Oz. This we were gifted the privilege from the one, the only, the infamous, the beautiful, the GOAT, Mandisa Thomas from Black Nonbelievers, who graciously ushered into our arms Greydon Square and Tombstone the Deadman. And kudos both of you. Thank you for accepting the invitation to be on our channel, on our show this evening. I know a lot of our viewers are fans of both of y'all, so we'll test that and see if y'all join the Patreon. But honestly, welcome, Greydon. Welcome, Tombstone. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. And I'm always down to support someone's Patreon. So make sure whoever is watching this support the Patreon. Always support independent business.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I have links. I got them links. I will dish them out so our mods can just recycle them all throughout the show.
Nice.
So we can, bump up that 420 by 420.
Ah,
We appreciate that.
Oz, how you doing?
Chilling. How are you?
Oh, I couldn't be better. Couldn't be better.
I still went to the same eye doctor and got the same damn glasses.
Oh, we did though. That's how we roll.
that's synergy. That's synergy.
That's how we roll.
It was unplanned, so it's synergy.
Yeah. Hey, we didn't plan having our merch shirts on together.
Yeah, that you know what? You are. You both.
happening.
There you go. You both are. Wow.
It is what it is.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, it used to be when you were in a crew, you guys dressed alike, right? Like there was a theme among
Facts.
the crew, right? Now everyone in that crew had to do it their own way and had to be unique. You couldn't bite your homie,
Right.
but even within that, you still had to maintain a level of uniformity. We're all old enough, I think, to remember those days, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and some of us were in gangs, so there was similarity. There was a little common similarity. Some of that, just saying.
Yeah, I always said that there's you have the key like ingredient, so to speak. So you got the steak, but everybody gets their own seasoning, their own spice.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Well played. Well said. I know, Oz, I think you had a pretty burning question for either Greydon or Tombstone. Can't recall what it was though.
Burning.
Burning.
Yeah, so I thought we'd start off up top, just talk a little shit about some hip hop, and this is always the one question that everybody, all hip hop heads or hip hop fans, love to discuss, love to debate. And whoever wants to go first, you can go first. It'll come in two forms. First, greatest rapper alive.
All right, so this is a rather complicated question because for somebody like me, it literally depends on who's out, who's still active, who's still putting music out there, or a level of impact of the music. But it's also difficult for me because I rap. I'm biased. I'm the greatest rapper alive. That's it.
Hell yeah.
That's it.
Done. That's his answer. Moving on.
That's it. That's it.
I'm the greatest rapper.
So, Tombstone, is that your final answer?
That is my final answer. My final answer.
I like it.
And then there's everyone who is the self-proclaimed greatest rapper of all time. You know what? They're right.
They're right.
You know who my favorite self-proclaimed favorite, who said he was the greatest of all time? Sean P.
Oh, I love Sean P, man.
I
miss Sean P so much. He reminded me so much. My first producer, Sean Black. Same build, same goofy sense of humor.
Yeah.
Same just rugged. That Sean Black. Love Sean P, man. Love Sean P.
But to answer your question directly, I'm gonna say Killer Priest. That's it.
I knew he was gonna say that too.
I mean, that's it.
Oh, interesting.
I knew he was gonna say that.
So
I honestly, he might be the ceiling of hip hop.
I knew he was gonna say that.
So why?
Yeah, what's your criteria?
I mean, it's completely subjective.
Why
I
not?
mean, that's fine.
Why?
I just think his wordplay and his imagery, his ability to rewrite certain rules of hip hop as he's rapping to where it still makes not only lyrical sense, but like it makes more rhyme sense, lyrical sense, visual sense And to me, it's like I don't know another rapper who does that better than him.
Can I tell y'all something else that he's not mentioning now too?
What?
About one of the reasons that Killah Priest is hot there. So the data set that Killah Priest works with, especially now, the stuff he's rapping about, what he's pulling from, is so unique. Because I personally have not heard anybody else pulling from that source of information that he's pulling from. He's going straight from the ancient Sumerian stuff, right? I don't know any other rapper, just like Greydon was the first rapper that I ever met that utilized the Carter scale. I haven't heard any other rapper do that.
I'm the only rapper to still ever do that.
Right. Nobody, Killah Priest, I've never heard anybody pull at Sumerian mythology and put that stuff in there like that. Never.
Yeah.
That's art.
He's the GOAT to me.
Yeah, he's and so shout out to Dr. Josh. The one we're talking about backstage, he's a great
Friend of the show.
friend of mine, friend of the channel. And he, Killah will literally call or text him like, hey, how do I pronounce this word in Greek or Hebrew? Or what is this in Sumerian? Because Josh's degree, well, he has his doctorate in Assyriology. And then he has another master's in something. I don't remember what it is now, but he'll literally hit him up like, hey, how do I say this? Or what is this? Or,
That's incredible.
And Josh will send him a voice text back, pronunciating it. Like, this is how you say it. Dun, 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 dun.
Dr. Josh is so
that's
cool.
Incredible.
That's
incredible. That is the equivalent. We used to talk about how, when you were in the process of putting together music, you did a lot of reading, just a bunch of reading on various different topics and stuff, because that stuff inevitably bleeds into your lyrical content. I love to see rappers doing research and just reading it. And Chuck D said a long time ago, he said a rapper is only going to rap about what he knows. So if you don't know much, you're not going to rap about much, right?
Makes sense.
Well said.
Yeah, I can't remember who I was talking to that had decent success in the world of music and hip hop. It basically said, the level of your intake as far as knowledge and information, the level of your intake will be shown by what you put out and whether it's real shit or bullshit,
right?
And whether it's just nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. I've often said that if you want to know what kind of shit I'm on, just listen to the last album, whichever music project I just released last. That's what my mind was on that entire process. The stuff I was reading, the stuff I was watching, the things I was contemplating, things that was happening in my life. All of that. If you want to catch up, if you lost contact with me and then want to catch up, just go listen to that project before that, because these are the things that are prevalent in my mind, just put down there to music.
Yeah, I'm curious. So, and this is pretty much a question for maybe all of you, since you all have your history and making music and everything. Do you feel that what you work on, which is your art, which is unique to you, what you want to put out for people to hear, would you say that the music you create, what you try to tell a story or anything, however you compose it, should it always be the same throughout your career, or should it evolve? Is change okay with you? Do you adjust to what other people want or expect from you? Which, I mean, that's probably an easy answer, but
I'm gonna let Gray start with that. That's a great question too.
You know what? I'll let Oz start off because I'm curious to know what his answer is first.
Yeah, Oz.
I'll be the first one to get destroyed here. No, I'm kidding. No, I think 100% the way, first of all, the way you deliver your message is always going to evolve, because just like as humans, we're always changing and hopefully improving, and getting better at what we do. The way we deliver that thought or that message or that stage of life that we're at, that's always going to change. But I would say the one thing, especially when we're talking about hip hop, in my opinion, is the one thing that you can't do is not be authentic and not be right where you are, right in that moment as you're writing or freestyling or even DJing, like in that moment, what you're feeling and letting that come through the pen or letting that come through the turntable or letting that, whatever, that it should be authentic to the time and the moment and the way you're feeling. And as long as you're doing that, if that is part of the evolution, if that's part of the change, then bring it, motherfuckers, bring it. But if it's not, if it's something that's disingenuous because you're trying to get clicks or likes or album sales or whatever, that's when I as a fan, I become very disinterested in what you're doing.
Sure.
Great answer. Great answer.
I think evolution is just a natural process of art. I don't think you really have a choice in that. If you continue to do art, you will evolve. And whether that's a negative or de-evolution or an evolution, I think you're either growing or you're regressing. And sometimes the skills that you once had, you don't have because you weren't practicing those skills. I mean, I'll be the first to admit there were things I could do as Apocalypse I can't really do as Greydon Square, right? But then again, there are things that Greydon Square can do that APOC could never do, like he couldn't even conceive of. And I think the level of growth and the distance traveled creatively is incomprehensible in a lot of ways. And I feel like a lot of people has watched that journey from the moment I was Apocalypse all the way up until I was Type 4 Greydon Square. And that journey, that distance travel, that evolutionary path is unique. And I think everyone has that unique evolutionary path in their art. Whether they decide to hang it up one day, everyone wants to shut it down. At a certain point, everyone shuts it down. You hear Sting just shut it down, Everybody who makes music is going to decide one day to hang up the mic, hang up the keyboard, hang up the turntables, and hang up whatever that they got, hang up the voice, because they simply can't do it anymore. I've heard a couple of musicians, professional musicians, talk about they can't even hear anymore. They can't even do it anymore because they can't hear music in the way that they used to. Thankfully, I haven't had that experience where my ears have gone because I got these big ass ears. I used to be so ashamed of my big ass ears as a kid.
They help you mix now, B. They help you mix
my ears because they've helped me create the life that I live. And it's crazy. Stone.
So with me, I don't know any other, kind of like to piggyback off what Oz and Greydon said. I don't really know any other way to be. I didn't get into hip hop 40 years ago simply because I thought I was going to get rich and famous. Like, I got into hip hop around the time when it really started to transport itself from New York and get down into Baltimore. And first it was the music, but then it was the culture. I just wanted to be down with the culture. And I was dared. Somebody said that I couldn't do it. That's when I started rapping. So it wasn't about, I'm gonna be this rich and famous rap dude or any of that stuff. So it was about improving every time I created something, getting better at it for a while. And then when I was interested in being a part of the industry, even with that, there were certain things I would not compromise. Authenticity is one of them. I'm not going to say stuff that I won't do or haven't necessarily done just so that a certain segment of the consumer base will think I'm cool and all of a sudden spend a whole bunch of money on, because at the end of the day, when I'm on my deathbed and I'm thinking about my discography, I don't want to think about that there's a bunch of music on there I did for a check. And I don't even like myself, So it's always going to be a evolution thing with music with me, because my mind state does change over time. The stuff I'm rapping about at 52, I wasn't rapping about at 13. All right. It's not going to be the same. My life is different, Exactly. But what I will say is, and I kind of feel this is the same way about human psyche, period. and it translates into the music. We're still that kid in the playground. We just have layers around that of experience,
Absolutely.
education. So you're still that kid. So my first song ever recorded on studio equipment, and it was home studio equipment, old Tascam with the cassette tape and all that other stuff. It was terrible. It was called the Grim Reaper. That was the first one. So it's 2022, and my stage name is Tombstone, the Deadman, and I use a lot of dead imagery. I'm still that kid in that studio. Back then, I just have layers and life experience and performances and all this other stuff that has added to what I was then. But nah, it's about authenticity.
Can I say one thing about that too? Is we are still of the first generation of hip hop, all of us, even the people we don't like, because we haven't seen really the first actual generation of hip hop die off yet. I hate to be so callous about it, but only then I think will we actually know the longevity and the impact of hip hop, that it's going to be like multi-generational, where people who started hip hop are no longer here.
Yeah,
we still have some people who started hip hop.
Yeah, Africa Man Bard is still here. Like a lot. Yeah,
all those heroes of the '80s, they're still here.
Yep.
And until they're gone, and the golden age and golden era rappers start kind of dying off, I don't necessarily know if we're gonna really be able to gauge and understand and grasp how massive the impact of hip hop was to humanity. I think it's one of the biggest cultural forces in human history.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I'll say one more thing, and I'll ask the other question, and we'll talk comics. We'll talk comics. We can get into your guys' project you're working on together.
Throwing us fastballs down the middle all day. We'll keep hitting.
But to Jena, to your question, and I did as much research and study as I could, and when I'm thinking about that question and how it relates to this particular stream, like I know I listened to several tracks of yours, Greydon, from the Compton Effect, and then what I could find your most recent Compton Scattering, and to hear whether you want to call it the evolution or the maturation process or a development or whatever in your not just lyricism but the confidence in your delivery,
right?
Yeah.
And you can as I always say, they laugh at me, but I say it on our channel, you went from just flowing to now, Compton Scattering. You were saying that shit with your chest.
Yeah,
that shit was coming from the chest.
Yeah,
and not saying that you weren't trying to in 2007, but in 2016, that shit was coming. Like, you were saying that shit with your chest, and that just speaks to that if we're all working hard to get to be better at what we're, either just adulting or at our craft or, whatever it is we're passionate about, if we're working hard at getting better, you're going to see and witness an evolution. And I think that even puts a exclamation point to that. So,
and people will gravitate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And notice it too.
Thank you.
If you listen to his stuff long enough, you'll see the evolution. You'll literally be part of it in real time.
Yep, absolutely. All right, and then so the first question was greatest rapper alive, and now I know I have to put the caveat on this. So if anybody on screen is discluded from the
that makes sense.
Cannot vote for yourselves, dang it.
Yeah.
Stop
well then I have my greatest of all time.
So yes, so
other than myself,
other than you,
and other than Greydon.
Right, because I mean, so I if you ask me like a top 5, I can't include Tombstone because he is literally one of my favorite rappers of all time.
That's fair.
Well, that's why I
So-
said anybody on screen, because
Right.
I figured the love's there. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
nobody on screen,
Mhm.
greatest
I would
rapper
say
of all time.
of all times, I got to give it to Jay-Z. And I don't even want to, but I got to. I don't even want to, but I got to. The way I define all of that outside of myself and outside of Greydon is you don't have to be, for me, the greatest pen ever. You have to be a great pen and a bunch of other intangibles. Impact matters. And because hip hop is it's a consumer thing now. So was he successful in that arena? Because that could also mean he reached a lot of people. People liked what he did, enough to spend their hard-earned money on it. Impact of when they say something. There are a lot of rappers that have been rapping for a long time, and we love their music. But if they make a statement in any interview or whatever, nobody really cares. If that rapper made that type of impact in the culture and outside the culture, where he says something and it moves the culture, I don't know anybody that moves the culture in hip hop and out other than Jay-Z.
Not the way he does it. No,
not the way he does it. I don't know anybody that does it. So for me, it's not just his product. It's his product plus all this other stuff, all these other intangibles that trust and believe when he's dead and gone, you're gonna hear other people saying that too. When they start listing all of the things that he accomplished and the things that he did, you're gonna hear other people saying that too. It's hard to see when a lot of times people still breathing, they're still around to piss us off, they're still around to do something we disagree with. When they die though, and they do the analysis and they start like stacking up stuff and going bam, 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 like, wow, who did it like he did it in rap?
Right now, nobody.
That's true. I like that. Okay.
Interesting. That's a pretty strong argument, actually, from Tombstone. I'm actually surprised at that pick, and his argument for it was even more surprising. And I know my brother. I did not expect that.
You was expecting Black Thought
I
because
was expecting
from a rap perspective, Black Thought is my guy.
someone from that tree. I was definitely expecting someone from that
Black
branch.
Thought is one of the most slept on MCs.
Man, listen. listen. But for me, great is all. It's a lot more to it than just, to me, the rap part. It's can they shake the culture, like the impact they had, and they started with rap, and he'll still drop a 16 on you. Play with him. He'll still drop a 16 on you.
Yeah. All right. So he says Gray's volume is a little low compared to everybody else. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can. I think you may sound a little low, probably.
Really? Interesting. All right, let me tweak some stuff real quick.
You go ahead and chop it up, Great. I can do it from the stream here.
Oh, okay.
That way you don't have to worry about it.
That's cool. Because I'm like, I can hear everybody pretty evenly, but maybe it's not on my side, so that could be a thing. I'm just gonna move my mic a little bit closer.
Yeah.
I just brought your volume up significantly, so they should be.
You might want to push that back a little bit.
You're good now.
Okay. Cool. Good shot. All right. So I'm gonna try not to give a convoluted answer, but I almost want to give two answers to this question because it's hard for me to logic myself out of someone like Killah Priest. But here's the caveat, I guess. I do feel like, and I mean this with no disrespect, I feel like Killah Priest is better than every dead rapper who's ever lived. Right? So if you've died and you fall into that, we can't judge you because you're dead. No disrespect to Pun, Big, Pac, any of those guys.
MF
Doom, no disrespect. I honestly, this is the way I describe Killah Priest. He's a super MF Doom.
Yeah, because you was on Doom first. Before Killah, you was on Doom first.
It was between Doom, M, and Cannabis, but it wasn't even a question when I started listening to Killer Priest. It was like, wait a minute, what am I listening to right now? I don't know what the fuck I'm listening to right now. This dude is an absolute alien, and I feel like that. But when we get into like greatest of all time, this is the way I normally answer that question. And me and Stowe have had this conversation a bunch of times. So I grew up in martial arts. I studied a bunch of different martial arts. I still will go roll to this day. And I believe in the belt system.
This is his jam.
I believe that you gauge people and they'll be remembered at essentially whatever belts that they accomplished in their journey in hip hop. So I believe that there are brown belt rappers. I believe that there are purple belt rappers. I believe that there are black belt rappers, and then multiple degrees of black belt is how you distinguish the levels of degrees that you might have to compare others to. So Busta Rhymes may be a 6th degree black belt compared to Jay-Z's maybe 7th degree black belt or something like that. But when you get into the highest levels of the martial arts, such as like, let's say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you start getting into red belts, right? Red and black belts, red and white belts. But you start getting into the red tier of belts. And this is to signify the idea that you're essentially a grandmaster, right? So you have, but I like to call it a master because I reserve black belt for expert. So
Yes.
I do believe that the black belts are experts at rap. So if I describe someone in hip hop as a black belt, what I'm really saying is this person has become an expert at all of the fundamental points of hip hop, and they can do everything well. Right. But where you get the red belt, where you get the grandmaster, where you get the master tag, right, which I'm going to consider a red belt a grandmaster, you're moving the culture, like Tombstone's talking about. You are literally shaping the very culture of hip hop itself, and only certain people have ever done that.
That's a fact.
The one person I'd have to give it to, if I have to say one person deserves that tag as probably the highest red belt that it ever existed, would be KRS-One.
Wow, that's respectable though.
I think KRS-One, if it's not him, it's Rakim. But I mean, I think when you talk about the shaping of the culture part, the slight edge of what Chris has contributed up until this point, the slight edge, I think, goes to KRS-One. If you held a gun to my head, I'd say KRS-One. I like that. But
listen, to still man your point, the reason why I rap think about stuff is because KRS-One rapped about stuff.
Right.
I heard him like topic, not just how fresh my shoes was, and no. KRS-One rapped about stuff, and when I said, "Oh, we can rap about things." KRS-One has a huge influence in that for me. So yeah, that's respectable. I respect that.
Yeah, I think if we're coupling the lyrical ability, delivery, and accuracy and cultural impact, the reason I'm pausing, I'm trying to think out of the three that we've talked about, are we leaving anyone out of that? And I can't think of anyone.
Oh, I mean, there's the obvious, the elephant in the room, Eminem. I mean, he's there. We can't be disrespectful here. He's there. He earned that.
Fuck Eminem.
You are only okay. He's only making that face because of the Super Bowl.
I don't think
I
think that dude earned that. I think Eminem,
he earned it too.
I think he's not only a culture shaper, but he was a dude that really a lot of people didn't want to accept, and they were forced to accept him based on his skill. Now, how you feel about him personally, you can separate the man from the art, okay, whatever. But I think skill-wise, it's hard to argue.
No, if you have skill, you don't lip sync. Point.
No, every rapper has done that. Every rapper.
You're not a rapper. You're not a rapper.
I mean, the reason is comparatively, when's the last time something Dre released something? And and you know how old he is, and he went out there and did the damn thing. Now, argument is, Dre.
Who are you talking about?
Dre.
Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So my argument was, it was LA represented. Eminem can take his ass back to Detroit. So
But this was about a Dre thing, though. That's what I thought. You talking about the Super Bowl thing? I thought it was
right.
about a Dre thing.
No. Talking about Super Bowl thing.
You made that was supposed to be an LA thing because of the Rams.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Gotcha. It's so tied into the Dr. Dre resume, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you look at what the things that Dr. Dre is going to say he was proud of, and that
it would have looked weird without him.
Eminem's going to be one of those things.
Yeah, it would look weird without him.
That's white privilege. Fuck Eminem.
Well, this is how I feel about him. I've always respected his lyrics and all of that, but I don't know if you guys ever saw this interview that Rakim had with some French outlet. Rakim gave him his flowers, so I ain't gonna say nothing. What you want me to say? Rakim, that's the god.
I mean, there's
He
a couple
can,
guys that have co-signed Eminem. Where
I ain't gonna say nothing.
Like that. Like Redman is another one who is like, I feel like should be at the table.
Redman should be at the table. Redman should be at the table, B.
Like he's another one who I feel like he's
an alien.
Shaped the culture. He's one of the greatest hip hop tag team champions of all time. Like he's literally unfuckwittable. Like
and if you ever saw him perform live, like live, he's unfuckwittable.
Yeah.
Unfuckwittable.
He's unfuckwittable.
New word.
Period.
So I feel like anytime I have this conversation, as soon as Redman gets mentioned, I always have to bring up Jada.
Jada's a beast.
Because
he don't perform live like Redman do. I've seen both of them live.
My belt system. I think he is a high degree of black belt, but I don't believe that he's a red belt. No disrespect.
Oh no, he's not a red belt. I would not say that. But as far as just being able to lyrically sit at the table, he's
yes.
He deserves. He needs the plate, the fork, the spoon, the knife. He needs all that shit.
Agreed. Have you ever heard of the hip hop? That's really good. Have you ever heard of the hip hop mansion analogy?
Yes.
Well, yeah, Tombstone. You've heard of this, right? Mm-hmm. I'll just quickly explain it. Basically, it's a mansion. You decide how many rooms, and there's a certain amount of master bedrooms, and then there's a bunch of smaller rooms. There's a guest house. There's a bunch of different analogies you would use for the hip hop mansion. And so we used to use the 30-room hip hop mansion. But then like Wu-Tang would get one room with bunk beds in it. You know what I'm saying?
I like it.
Doom would have like the pool house instead of being in the house because Doom is so weird. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, all the different weird analogies that you would have.
And it might not even be Doom. It might be one of his Doom bots.
Right. Exactly.
Oh,
I
man.
like it.
Hip hop.
Wow. I want to bridge this because, of course, we want to dive on into what you both have collaborated on for several years. That hard work certainly is paying off. Kudos to you both. And I have, a lot gathered from that. Just recently, just watching the last stream you did on your shared channel, Majestic Comics, where you, I was impressed. I was impressed in how in depth both of you went as far as the business side, as far as the artwork, wanting the physical, when you showed and displayed the print of your work, and I was like, oh, that looked pretty nice. And just and with Greydon on your own channel, just getting that feedback from your viewers of what they would like, and considering those things, considering what would be something that captures your audience and has that sustainability as you continue to make more, but still listening to what your viewers, I guess, expect or want, I guess, as fans of yours. But the way I wanted to bridge it is, I was talking about what you subjectively feel is the greatest hip hop rap artist of all time. Obviously those influences have molded what you both individually have done and then have come together and creating right now. And of course, not also do obviously this is the Atheist channel. We recognize both of you as atheists.
Yes.
So, and just you don't have to go in full background as far as if you were a believer before or not, but main purpose of this particular show is having that discussion and diving into that, but not to be too heavy. But from those transitions from your early stages in life, you know, having the love of the music and, you know, evolving and growing from that, how and why did it all culminate into the digital artwork that you do now? Whose brainchild ultimately was this? And I know you both have another partner in this structure.
Mhm.
He's the one that creates the art, but you
Structure,
both pretty much do the music for it.
We write and we write the story and create the characters. It's a good question. It's an in-depth question.
I'm good about those.
So if I may, I was kind of started, and Gray, jump in
Okay.
if I'm screwing it up.
Hey, Tombstone.
Yeah.
Tombstone,
Yeah.
real quick. We have a bunch of people that are here right now that were not here for the intro.
Oh, okay.
Would you mind if I one more time play your guys' quick trailer and then you jump right into it?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't moving like at double speed for you when you were seeing it.
I didn't really notice.
Oh, okay, well, cool. Maybe it was just me.
Well, I'll check it real quick before I play it. Playback speed is on normal, so we're good.
All right.
All right. Some sexy footage.
So with the comic book, most people that know the history of Grand Unified, they know it kind of begins with me, Greydon, and Alex, right? Explain. We came together because at a certain point we were kind of the only ones doing what we were doing. And Greydon's fans introduced me to what he was doing, and my fans introduced him to what I was doing. So first we came together on the music aspect and also what we represented in that atheist activist movement back then during that time. The music wound up forging a friendship, right? Between us both, brotherhood. So he would introduce me to things and I would introduce him to things, right? So one of the things he introduced me to was to really kind of fuse more scientific terms and stuff like that with what I was already doing. If I had not have met Greydon, there probably wouldn't have been an Entropic Man album because I wouldn't have been thinking in those terms, right? One of the things that I feel I'm credited with introducing back into his life was comic books. Because see, the one thing about comic books is that it really changed the scale of how I saw certain things. I grew up religious, right? So anytime you talked about a deity, that was something not to be played with. That was something not to be pulled from where the reference was when you first got that. So if you were a Christian, Jesus is Jesus. If you was a Muslim, Allah is Allah. That's it. All that, you don't play with that name. Comic books changed a lot of that for me. Why? Because in comic books, those writers used a lot of those same deities, either the old pagan ones, as well as they would flip the current monotheistic thing. And they didn't care. It was about their creativity. So in certain books, these gods could be embarrassed. These gods could get their asses kicked. These gods could be complete assholes. All of that, right? And it really scaled the deities, helped me scale that so that by the time I stopped buying into a lot of that stuff that I was taught as a child and all of that, it was really easy for me to compartmentalize these deities because of comic books. Well, yeah, his power set ain't all that. He shoots thunder, lightning, big deal. Like, it's not a big deal, right? So Greydon, he got kind of introduced to comic books early on in his life, but it wasn't in the same fashion that I was. I was like heavily ingrained in it. And one day I gave him a a link to Marvel Comics database. And he went on there and I did not see him again for 3 or 4 days. And when he resurfaced, he said, bro, this database, the way they created this universe, this multiverse, from before the universe, that universe even existed, they got stories from a previous universe. He said, why can't we create a universe, bro? I was like, we absolutely can. I've always wanted to do that. But since you down now,
you're missing one. That story was 99% accurate. You're
okay, all right.
1% of the story. Do you remember the question that I asked you?
About the nature of reality?
No, about Stan Lee.
Oh, okay.
But that's what really kicked it off.
Yeah.
Because when I came back from the Marvel database, I remember saying, like, so Stan Lee is the one above all. And you were like, yeah. And I was like, so he wrote his immortality into a universe that he created. And you were like, yeah. And I was like, why can't we do that?
Yeah.
I feel you. I get it. Yeah.
And so that's how the idea of us coming up with a comic book was kind of born. But then the story that is the story of today, the Fulcrum Point story that we did for issue 0, and we're doing a Clash of Consequence issue 1 right now. But it's like that story was born out of about 7 years of sweat equity.
Yeah.
And us, going to places that explore the very nature of writing itself, and us trying to figure out a way to learn how to write stories, because I'm an MC. I'm a really good MC. I feel like I'm really confident in my abilities. However, I haven't written many stories in my life.
Different set of muscles.
It's a different set of muscles of creativity. So I got to make sure I'm not the asshole here thinking I'm just hot shit jumping in, and fall flat on my face, just out of just fish out of water type shit. So what we tried to do was learn how to write the stories that we wanted to write through these kind of research mechanisms. And 7 years later, we had a story that we were pretty comfortable and proud of. And I think all of that was really born out of the fruitful soil that is the Grand Unified Community. I always want to give GU a shout out, because GU is the soil in which an idea like this grew. And a lot of ideas are born in Grand Unified, the community, whether it's the Reaper Legion, whether it's the Giannis Left, the Valkyrie, TXI, Low Technology, Progeny of Ancients, wherever it is. It's like there's so much growth. I mean, I can't even tell you what Grand Unified, and this is one of those brainchilds of Grand Unified. So yeah, that story, everything he said was correct, except for, I asked him this weird question about Stan Lee.
It wasn't so weird. And one of the things about the story we chose to write, it's meta commentary on the nature of reality itself. It's something Greydon likes to say, especially with any works of fiction. All realities are both true and false.
Right.
If we're dealing with a multiverse, if the possibility of the multiverse exists, there exists a chance for almost every type of universe to exist that could. And we play with that in the story, the very fabric of what it is to be creative, and what that creativity actually means, where you draw that creativity from. All of these things we kind of explore in this series, and we wrap it into something that is a mixture of sci-fi and some bit of traditional superhero stuff. But it's all of these questions and stuff are asked in the story. And yes, I'm biased, but I know what we wrote. I know what's coming down the pike. It's very badass. It's very badass.
Let me address just the atheist, the atheism aspect of all of this, because I think a lot of people came into my music and came into our music at that point where we were deep in those cultural trenches, if you will.
Yeah.
And it was a culture war, right? And that was back in 2007. But if you go back to that time, you have to understand who I was, 20 years ago, right? I'm not that person like I was back then when it comes to religion. I have dissected religion so many times, not only in my mind, but in my music, that it ceases to be interesting to me in a lot of ways, right? Not to dismiss the people who are still into that cultural fight, but at a certain point, you will realize that those aren't the biggest questions that you can ask, right? There are bigger questions that you can ask. And I'm starting to think that a lot of times we stop at that level because we think that's the final level of asking questions. And I think that, yes, gods are interesting, deities are interesting, or the lack thereof, or the dissection of belief systems. All that stuff is interesting. But there are questions and layers that go above that and beyond that. And I feel like you're missing a good part of the journey if you just stop there.
Yeah. And musically, just speaking from a music standpoint as well, because there are people who, when they got introduced to us, they got introduced to us doing that sort of content in the music. A lot of them are still there with that because that's where they first met us at.
Right.
Musically,
right.
we aren't there anymore. We might reference it, but we're not making whole songs to dispute a certain religious point or whatever, like we was doing back then. And it's a little frustrating, not a bunch, because I listen, I've been doing this for a lot of years. The fact that people was willing to spend money on my music, the fact that people would memorize my lyrics, the fact that people would share them and all that other stuff like that is awesome. That's something that any artist would want. But sometimes we get put in that box. And like if you ask them about current music, a lot of them only would know from Rise of the Infidel or back with Stockholm Syndrome stuff. We did a plethora of music before that. And I've been doing this for 40 years. And that entire 40 years, I have not been atheist. And a whole bunch of music that I did during that time. You know
what's interesting is I don't even really consider it frustration. I just look at it as I'm trying to. So we always reference the KaRAYgeous scale when we're talking about, in the same way we have belt systems, we reference the KaRAYgeous scale and where we are on it as it pertains to where our thinking is, right? So I feel like when we're dissecting religions and gods, that is at best type 1, right? And I talked about that on type 1. But once you get to about type 2, gods start to become less and less interesting because they're tiny. So far and far behind you.
So tiny.
At type 3, gods are infinitesimally small. They're
bacteria. Yeah.
They're bacteria.
Bacteria.
Like I don't think about bacteria at all. I know it exists. I mean, in the context of people think that way. Like I get all that, but I've become so much more comfortable around people's religions because gods have become so
irrelevant. Irrelevant.
That's not a knock to like anybody who still thinks gods are interesting. Like they are to a certain point, and why people believe in the evolutionary psychology of the belief in gods is very interesting. It's a case study unto itself.
And that's interesting that you both have come to that. And I think that's just how you both were speaking on earlier about, growing into and maturing into the music that you do now and the work that you do now with the digital art. So, that's just showing your own growth. Like you have not allowed yourself to be stagnant or in that place so many years ago. And I to borrow a term, it is an unfortunate blessing that many, as very few of Black hip hop artists in general are Black atheist artists in general are. When us finally stumbles upon that, or anyone for that matter, all you can do is gravitate to that, and that's how you become hooked. That's how you become fans. But then now, I mean, they have to grow. They have to want to grow with you and recognize you are so much more than just your non-belief, and so much more than just the music you made 20 years ago.
And I agree with you. And they'll get there because that journey is a part of that discography, right?
Absolutely.
So if you listen to me long enough, you'll realize that A, the music's going to get better, and B, I'm going to talk about things that are far more nuanced than just the black and white conversation of whether gods exist or not.
Right.
Because I'm actually in a, like, obviously I'm an atheist because I don't believe in the idea of man-made gods. But here's the thing that I'm starting to do. I'm starting to put people into two camps, right? The camp of people who believe that the human mind is capable of understanding reality at its 100% accuracy.
We talked about
And the camp that believes that this is not possible, right? Some people believe that even with all of our instruments and everything that we have, the scientific method, there's just certain aspects of reality that are closed off to us based on how many dimensions we occupy and how we evolved. That's just the reality of the game. We're just in our ocean. The ocean that we're in says that we'll know these things, but that's it. There's a environment outside the ocean that we'll never have access
the
to.
cave. The cave.
Right.
The cave.
But there are some people who believe with all of our sensory and all of our instruments that we do have the ability to understand reality at its fundamental nature quantum level, at the bottom floor of reality. And I'm really starting to have conversations with theists who occupy both camps and atheists who occupy both camps and agnostic people who occupy both camps. Suddenly we find theists, agnostics, and atheists in the same damn camp.
Fact. Fact.
When you say that, I'm intrigued, but I think I need a little more clarity. Help me connect the dots there. When you say you're finding atheists and theists in the same camp in regards to that, what do you mean by that?
Well, because what I'm saying is I'm assigning them to two different camps, right? I'm assigning them to a camp that says that the human mind is, with all of its intelligence and all of its instruments and its technology, has the ability to understand reality 100% fully, whether there's an afterlife or not, whether there's a God or not, whether there's all of that stuff. We have the ability to understand that with our intelligence and our instruments. And there's a camp that doesn't believe that no matter what we have, no matter what instruments we have, no matter what technology we have access to, we'll never know the totality of reality because of the consequence or the barrier of how we evolved.
Bro, I want to talk to any atheist that claims to have knowledge of any of that.
I have, and it's embarrassing. Honestly, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Because I know theists do it.
Embarrassing.
Theists claim to have knowledge of everything, right? But any atheist that claims that they have knowledge of whether it's origins or how or why we evolution is a thing, and we know it's a thing, but why is it and how it is? They claim absolute knowledge or certainty. I
have met someone.
I was gonna say
who has made these.
I'm not sure if you've been around some of those people like I have.
Yeah,
I definitely have.
Made these sweeping statements, and I look at them. And did anybody here besides Greydon used to watch wrestling?
Oh,
you remember how Kane would look at you like, I've done that. I'm like, but you're really? Really? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It really is.
Yeah, I think Tombstone, you said it earlier, and it just conversation reminded me of Charles Barkley's signature. That's terrible. That's terrible.
It's terrible.
Terrible. Terrible.
Terrible.
Terrible. And look, you could have thrown me for a loop too. Because I thought the same thing, especially the years I spent in the activist movement. We don't think it's some. Yes, there is. It's to my surprise. Yes, there is, and it boggled my mind as well. Because I'm like, but the same tools you used for you don't know how to. You can't.
But you know what just hit me, and actually, Jen and I, you and I have talked about this because of a couple of different situations over the last few days. There's and shame on me, as my mom would say, slap my hand. Shame on me because being an atheist and being a skeptic are two very different things.
Thank you.
Right. Right.
are two very, very different things.
Thank you.
And what I was just trying to point out or discuss or talk about would be more about skepticism rather than atheism. So yes, now that I pause and I think about it, I can imagine there are atheists that would say those things,
Dude.
that they have absolute knowledge, but a true skeptic, like that is always being skeptical, always asking questions. I think that's where I would find the divide. Like, then I don't know if we can call them a skeptic.
It's a difference. It's a difference. I think it was my skepticism that allowed me not to be that, because at the end of the day, to me, that was the end goal, is to be a proper skeptic, so that it's part of that how the way you analyze information, like being able to entertain an idea without accepting it as dogma. Can you do it or can't you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well said.
And there are a lot of people I have met who call themselves atheists. And it threw me for a loop, because we a lot of the fingers we point towards the theist with some of these bad ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and just the way they came about having the particular position that they have. And that's why to me the Socratic method is great for that, because I don't care about how did you get to that.
Right.
Walk with me. How did
Right,
you
right.
get to that? That's more interesting to me.
Thank you. Glad you said it. There you go.
We are big fans of the Socratic method. We are big fans of street epistemology here. So yay.
Dang.
That's more interesting to me. That's more interesting. How did you get to that? How did you come to that conclusion?
Yes. Why do you believe?
Why do you believe that? Why do you believe like? That's more interesting to me than what they actually believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would much rather. I totally agree. I would much rather have that discussion. What led you to that belief? What convinced you, and what still convinces you to continue to hold or retain that deeply held belief?
Yeah.
Versus, tell me why God's real.
Yeah, it's not.
Tell me about the origins. Tell me. No, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I want to know why you believe the shit.
That's it. Why?
Yeah.
And to me, that's the conversation worth having, because I think we both can grow from that. I get to learn something, and hopefully the other person gets to learn something, right? We get to learn something from each other, have a true exchange of information instead of an exchange of dogmatic talking points that the people on this particular side of the argument have these canned responses for the things for the people on this side of the argument. I don't think there's growth there, because there's a barrier where people feel like as long as they can respond, as long as they have a response, whether it's a good response or not, as long as they can respond, they've somehow defended or felt the need to defend whatever it is they believe. I just want to know why. What got you?
But see, I have, and we'll move on to this and go back to your comic, I swear. But this is good conversation, because I have this irritation from atheists too, when we get so bogged down on our, reciting fallacies and arguments and this and that, where we actively are not listening to believers when they try to explain their belief. They just jump right down to whatever they want to follow with, and it doesn't even follow from what that person previously said. I'm like, oh, you just lost the point. You lost the point. I don't care how intelligent you are. I don't care how much philosophy you read. It's why you're not actively listening. Like, you would truly understand and get the very Cuss an idea of what that person is, illustrating or has experienced or whatever it may be. If you don't automatically strive to try to jump into like debate mode or
Yeah.
knock them down with this argument or why? Because any layperson, because we do this for a living. We talk to a lot of interesting people.
Right.
But any layperson outside of this doesn't want to hear all that mess. I didn't want to hear all that mess. I didn't even understand what that meant.
Right.
When I was a believer.
Jena, real quick, because I think this might spark a great, and this can be maybe one of the last things we talk about before we go back to the comics and music, and push and promote the hell out of.
I want to speak to something though before we get off that, because I think Tombstone made a great point, but I want to respond to it if I could have maybe 30 seconds.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a little bit more controversial of a statement, I think, in response to what you said, Tombstone, which all makes sense. It's all logicked well and reasoned well, and it's all thought through well. But there's a lot of people out there who believe what they believe, and they know they didn't get there logically, and they don't give a fuck.
Yo, that's a fact. I actually respect them though, because they're not trying to submerge it in that it was logical.
Right.
They're not going to waste my time with the. So now we got to argue about whether or not that's a logical premise.
Yeah. I mean,
they're not wasting my time with that.
In fact, a lot of what people believe is, in a lot of ways, an act of defiance or an act of confirmation of cultural identity. And it's nothing to do with like reasoning or logicking their way to something. And
absolutely
going through Bayesian logic and if this is true, then that should be okay. No, they're not even. It's not about that for them. This is confirmation of identity, or this is a rejection of another cultural idea, and the belief that this is true is directly related to that.
Yeah,
and those people are typically the least dangerous because they're like, okay, I don't give a fuck how I got there. I don't give a fuck how you got there. This is just what I believe because it makes me feel good.
Right.
And so they're typically, not all the time, but typically the ones that we don't have to worry about them causing harm or abuse or trauma or things like that. So yes, great. Now I totally 100% agree that there are those ones who's like, I don't give a fuck how I got there.
People tell me straight up, like I was getting ready to like get into this whole debate thing and shit, and I'm in the sauna and I'm getting ready to debate this dude. He was like, hey, it ain't gotta make sense to me, man. Like I was like, oh.
You got to shake his hand and thank him for not wasting your time.
It's like, all right,
I'll back up.
Right. You're not wasting my time.
Yeah, that's why I'm always in the habit of asking people, like, is it possible that your mind could be changed in this? If it's not, like, I don't want to
waste my
2
time.
hours of your time trying to argue with you back and forth. No shit.
And we can talk about something else.
Yes.
And walk away with a better experience that we had with one another than us getting into this back and forth, and then we irritated with each other. We could literally talk about the last Marvel movie that came out. Did you dig that? We can talk about it. We don't have to talk about that other stuff because I already recognize it's not about what whether you had logic or any evidence to back in that stuff up or not. You believe it because cultural reasons, because it makes you feel good, whatever other reason. It's not that. It's not that.
Yeah. And all that's like dead on, like fucking dead on. And Jena, should I you tell me. So I was getting ready to share my story or my experience at the bar the other night with the guy with the SE, with the Bible, with the
Shandeke. You'll understand why. Yes, please, by all means, Oz. Please share with the rest of the class.
I'll share this, and this is where SE or the Socratic method can get drive down to why people believe what they believe, but it is also a great tool that can also expose ignorance, bigotry, hatred, all of those things. So I work at a comedy club. So I do this, and then my other job is I work at a comedy club. And this particular evening, I didn't have to work, but they had an event that I wanted to be there for. So I'm not on the clock. And after the event's over, I go out to the bar, And then one of the other guys that works there, he's off the clock. He comes, sits next to me. He's brand fucking new, just started. He's security. He sits down, and since the first time I met him, I noticed, and I was itching to ask, and luckily he brought it up. I was itching to ask why he had this shield with a cross underneath his eye tattooed. It was bothering me. It was bothering me. Like, I know all the other eye tattoos. That one I'd never seen before.
Right.
I need to know this shit. So he sits down, we start talking, and finally I'm like, all right, dude, what's this? What is this? Well, he starts talking about Catholicism. And I was like, oh, I didn't know Catholics tattooed their eyes, but that's cool. Whatever. So as soon as he said Catholic, then I start going down, my normal line of questioning, what you believe, why you believe, yada yada. Somehow we got to biblical slavery in Exodus and Leviticus. And this motherfucker, as soon as I pointed out that, no, killing a human being, owning a human being, harming a human being in any way, I don't care how you mix it up, spread it out, shred it up, whatever, no matter what you do, it's fucking wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. All day, every goddamn motherfucking day.
He didn't agree. He didn't agree.
Oh, no, not only he doubled the fuck down. So I'll tell you what he said, then I'll give you my reply to him. And then I'll let y'all dive in. And then just know the next day he called in and quit because he didn't have the balls to come face me after that.
Wow.
But after I did it, he was like, well, I don't know, but here in America, we would not be the powerhouse country that we are today if it wasn't for slavery. And I looked at him, and it took, guys, I'm telling you, it took everything inside of me to not bitch slap this dude. I looked at him. I was like, did you really? And I said it loud enough where everybody in the bar could hear it. I was like, did you literally just let that fall out of your fucking mouth? Did you literally just let that happen? And he looked at me, he was like, what? I'm like, no, just nothing. Just nothing. Shut the fuck up and don't ever fucking talk to me again. Never talk to me again. And then he ended up quitting. But it was like, that's the problem with religion, is they get to use the religion and the book and all the shit to cover up that bigotry and the hatred and the racism and blah, 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 blah. But I'm glad he quit because two of the people I'm closest with at work and I care the most about, I can't get it out, are both a black woman and a younger black guy that I work with every day, and I love working with them and I appreciate them. And I'm like, no, if anything, I saved you from having to deal with that bullshit.
And you did it on your off day.
A couple of questions I do have about that, because when he said that, and I just want to make sure I'm interpreting this right. He said that in terms of that was a must and a good thing, because it's a difference between somebody saying like something that is just a fact, that this was a thing, like that money they got in textiles and all that other stuff like that contributed to the economic wealth of a country going forward. Or he was saying that, oh no, that absolutely was a must, that those people got that sort of treatment done to them because it was for the good, because we wouldn't have America now if not for that.
Correct.
Right. So the definitions and the premise was very, very clear that slavery is the ownership and the domination of a human being, and we cleared that up. And he was very emphatic that yes, if it was not for the U.S. or in this country, there's people that did not own people as property, that we would not be these are his words, not mine. we would not be the powerhouse country that we are today, minus the possession of Black people as property.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, like I said, it was probably the only reason. If I was if I was at any other job, or sorry, not job, if I was sitting at any other bar outside of where I work, that probably would have been a fight.
Wow.
That probably would have been a fight. Like, fuck you, bro.
Wow. Hey, now this guy, how long had you known this guy?
3 days, 4 days.
Oh, okay. So that was like your first long form conversation with him.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you know you're a fanatic. You know you're a fanatic, and you're an extremist when you tattoo your shield and your cross on your eye like you're making a mark.
Great. And what do you used to call it? Gangbang. That's gangbanging, right? That's
I mean, sounds like gangbanging to me, but for a lot of different reasons. But I got far different thoughts on this scenario. I think I'm just gonna wait till everyone is finished before I ask my question.
I'm good.
I'm good. I said my piece. Oh, I only want Oz to mention what he was gonna do for his next tattoo.
Oh, God damn it! I forgot about it. God damn it! And I told him so. Before I tell you what it is, I told as soon as he said it, and this was right before these comments. He said, "I'm gonna get this tattoo on my fucking forehead," and I was like, "You do understand? If you're a Bible believing Christian, that is completely like anti or counter intuitive to what the fuck your book says." And he's gonna get the coexist thing on his forehead. And I'm
Smart.
like, but you understand that your Bible says that no one gets to the Father but through me, Jesus. So you've eliminated every other God. So what are you talking about coexist? There's no coexisting.
wow. Wow.
I just wanted that out there.
Wow.
Greydon, please share.
So I'm just curious as to if you think that your interaction with him, do you think that hardened him in his beliefs, or do you think that he went and re-questioned everything that he believed in?
Well, the only thing I can control are my intentions, and my intentions were to try to help him to learn. I did not expect it to take the very hard turn right or left, whatever direction you want to say it is, but I did not ever foresee it taking that hard turn the way it did. So I entered it with the intentions of challenging beliefs or ideas to try to compel someone to look or study more. But when it derailed as quickly as it did, then it's no longer in my control.
What do you think that person thinks about what they believe today? Do you think they believe it more or less since the interaction with you?
I honestly, I can't. I don't have knowledge of what he.
No, I guess I'm asking you to speculate.
Yeah, so it's speculation. I think he quit because he was ashamed by what was exposed, and he didn't want to necessarily see me or talk to me again because he knows that hatred or bigotry or racism exposed. So if anything,
well, I got to push back on this a little bit. If you're saying that you were pretty aggressive towards him, it might not have been he was ashamed. He might have been afraid.
Well, if that's the case, if you saw him, and now this is all anecdotal. in this, like he's former military. He presents himself as this badass, hard ass, tough guy, yada yada. So if that simple conversation caused him to quit because I intimidated him, then I got to question everything that he said, you know, in the interview process and all that. But
I guess the reason why I asked that is because I believe that if you want to achieve your intended goal of really getting someone to question what they actually believe, this is my own personal opinion, but I'm gonna keep it real with you. I don't think that was a pretty good approach. If I believed what he believed, I'd believe it harder since meeting you. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you. I'm simply saying that interaction would have hardened me. It wouldn't have made me question anything. It wouldn't have made me like, oh, I'm ashamed. Nah, I would have just been like, you know what? I'm gonna quit because I might have to kill this dude. Right? Like, you want to fight. He might want to kill you over this. You're talking about his faith, bro. There are people who get their heads sawed off for that in certain places. And I'm not saying that it would have gone to that, but you never know with people. You never know with people. And I'm not saying there's not a time and a place to question people or not question people, but to ask people about what they believe and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, if you really want to have people question the very nature of something they hold fundamental, I don't believe attacking them is the right approach. He probably felt attacked and probably responded in that way. And what I've discovered is when I talk to people and I use a little bit more charm than I use the kind of antagonistic debate Greydon that I used to be, people give me a lot more of what they actually believe. You can dig a little bit deeper underneath the surface and find out, like, so you really don't actually believe that. You actually think this. Well, yeah, you know, actually that does make more sense. Oh, okay, that's not what you were saying, but I'm not even going to hold your feet to the fire on that. What I'm saying is, remember, and this is just to people listening to us, right? You can take your own approach. If you want to be more aggressive, you can be more aggressive. But what I'm saying is that there are often times where charm and your ability to ingratiate yourself to people is going to yield far longer conversations about far deeper things. And you might actually have that person be interested in your perspective for the long term. Because people are going to tell you, yeah, that sounds great. And they're going to go do what they want to do anyway. In order to really change someone's, and I say this all the time, but this is because I believe it. In order for somebody to really want to change, they have to want to be like the person who they want to have to change into the person they want to be like. So you have to respect someone to want to be like them or change into them. And there's a lot of people who, they don't care what you believe. They don't want to be like you. So they're not going to even give what you say any thought. So I feel like, yes, there are times to have a good old fashioned debate because people want to have a debate. Okay, fine. Let's pull out the swords. No problem. But I don't believe everybody needs to be dealt with in that approach. I think there are different approaches to talk to different people to achieve different goals. And I don't think everybody has to think the same thing in order for you to achieve your intended goal of having people question what they actually believe.
Well, and I think what may be being missed or maybe even forgotten in this is building up to this. I started with like SE or Socratic type questioning, and I used, like, I was very friendly, I was very cool, and for most of that he was smiling, I was smiling, and it's when we got to the part where he's like, well, no, the ownership of human beings in America, we wouldn't be who we are as a country today.
Okay. But my question to you is was that worth you breaking your composure?
Me personally, yes, I think it was. I think in that moment, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm willing to be.
It's not about right or wrong. This is just my subjective opinion. This is just the way
I'm asking.
It's not for me to judge what you did. I'm just trying to understand deeper of what you were trying to accomplish, and if your methods were going to lead you to what you were trying to accomplish, from my opinion. And I just right now I just don't see that.
Well, so everybody on screen, we can all chime in on this. So my thing was, as soon as that came up, it was now, it wasn't about necessarily the Bible anymore. It's about, you are a hateful, bigoted piece of shit, right? And I'm not going to give that any leniency.
Okay. I get your point. You are going to be vigilant in the face of racism. Have you ever heard the dude named Daryl Davis?
And well, hold on. Yes, but hold on. Let me finish my point real quick, and then I'll stop. I so many times I see white people that are afraid to go head to head with this, with other white people. They're like, oh, well, if I do this, I'm going to offend them and I'm going to lose friends, and then what are they going to think about me, and it's like they're afraid to be to truly be and sorry, my internet's fucking up. But so they're afraid to do that, and they're worried about this person's opinion and this person's opinion. I'm not, and I have no problem confronting it. And as soon as it went from just Bible to we're not this as a country, like the current day, we're not this without the ownership of human beings. We're not this without owning black people as property. I'm done. I'm done being civil. Shut the fuck up.
So I do have a question too. In this case, it stopped being about the religious argument for you, and it started being about he was justifying the enslavement of an entire people and everything that came with that. He was justifying that. My question is, what could have been said to him? Because this wasn't about, if I'm getting this right, this wasn't about whether or not it happened. This was about, from his perspective, it was good that it happened. With me, I don't know. I don't have the skills of argumentation to be able to convince him of that. That's a moral question. That's not, you don't pick that up, I don't believe, from data points. The moral question was, oh no, all that was good. That was supposed to happen. Look at all we have now because of that. Yeah, sure, that was great. I don't know the data points to be able to point him to get him out of that. So I'd stop talking to him.
Okay, so my point is, the person, Daryl Davis, who converted all those people from the Ku Klux Klan to giving up their white hoods, do you believe he did that by attacking them? Because I don't believe that that's what his experience, he said. I mean, I'm only going off what he said on the Joe Rogan podcast. I didn't really know anything else before that. But, I mean, this dude talked about how he befriended Klansmen. They said some of the craziest stuff to him that they thought they believed, and he had to sit through that. But he didn't break composure because he needed access to them to change who they were. And I'm not saying that may not be your goal. You may not try to do that. You may just want to regulate on somebody. Okay. But what I'm saying is, if you really care to change the world, if you really want to be a positive footprint in this world, you want to change these people, right? You don't want to have them walking around thinking that bullshit. That dude is walking around thinking that bullshit still. I don't think that experience with you changed that he thinks this.
I mean, but you're speculating as well.
You're right. This is total speculation.
Yeah.
This is my total opinion. But you're right. He could be walking around right now like, man, that incident with that one dude, man, he really got me thinking about some other shit. Totally, that totally could be a thing. Or he could just still be a hardened racist who's still believing what he believes even harder because someone confronted him in a way where it basically emboldened his position. And what I'm saying is we need access to these people. We don't want them to hide harder, so it's harder to find them. I want these views to be out in the open. This is why free speech is important, because I need to know they're the real racists. I need to go confront them. Not the ones, not the white kid who wants to say nigga every now and then, not some lady who gets in traffic and she screams the N-word. No, I need to know where the real racists are. Because there's a difference between someone just throwing a word around and someone who's really out to fuck with somebody because they believe that they're subhuman. And there are those people out there who believe that. But I'm saying the best way to have access to those people is not to get them to clam up and attack and retreat into their own friendly boundaries. No, I want you to say what you need to say. And then, okay, keep saying it. Why do you believe that? Oh, you believe black people should be owned? Why do you think that?
I think, to be fair in all this, and hearing all of your points, and I have a bit of a bias because I know Oz, and I know he has practiced this and done this pretty often. And I can say to that, you know, in majority of his interactions that I have witnessed, he has kept with his composure despite whatever someone was relaying. But I think we can all admit, for whatever discussion that we've ever had with others, we've been imperfect and we've grown, we've learned from that. We've all have. I have, you know, we have our triggers.
I was about to say that. I have. I was about to say that.
I see so much of myself in Oz, and how I was, and how I dealt with people when I was younger. And that was that young Greydon Square who was just, I was an attack dog. Stone, you know who I was.
Right.
I was an atheist gangbanger. Atheism was my gang, and I banged on fools with it. So I totally understand that perspective of like, listen, if I come into contact with a racist, I'm fucking banging on this dude. Okay, that's cool. That does exist. But I know Bloods and Crips who do business together. Like, trust me, get access to each other and you can change the nature of the conversation to where that person is no longer hateful. Yeah, he may claim, oh, I'm still a Catholic, or I'm still a Muslim, or I'm still this. But is he engaging in the things that are a detriment to society like you thought he was? Probably not.
Yeah, and I hear you. But my other point to that is, you know, and stemming from just my first point, we all have our triggers as far as what we can and cannot handle in certain conversation when those triggers happen to come up. Sometimes we learn from those mistakes and we correct ourselves and we try to resume our composure despite that trigger. But also, on my second point, is that when we attempt to engage as fairly and as cordial as we may strive for, and we have all the knowledge that we have, and we strive to regurgitate all that or convey that in the most simplistic way or the most manner in which is relatable to that person, we may not always be the most effective communicator. And it may come from someone else in which they find maybe even more or less unrelatable or relatable, and they can enact that change. What I'm saying is we're all different. We're all different in how we can best approach different people and how easily or uneasily we can convince them. Or at least not even strive to convince, at least strive to have them critically think about what they presumably agree to be true to them.
My standpoint on a lot of that is the fact that I know that you have to know yourself. I know the things, the certain conversational positions that will trigger me. The truth be told, as a 52-year-old man, I don't pop off anywhere near as much as I did when I was 22, right? But even to this day, there are certain things that can set me off, right? When it comes to convincing people about certain positions, I will be the first one to tell anybody that I am not a teacher. I don't necessarily have the skill set to be able to convince people out of certain longly held beliefs. They had these beliefs and they had plenty of time to inoculate themselves from reason, so that if I give them these counterpoints, they always have a counterpoint. And like I said earlier, a lot of people feel like if I can just respond, whether the response is worth a shit or not, if I can just respond, I've defended my position and I don't have to actually think any harder about it or consider what the other person is saying. So I don't fault us for the visceral reaction because I know me. I know that I am not the calmest all the time in the face of certain conversations. I think what Greydon is saying is, depending on what the outcome that you was looking for, that sometimes it's better to view the situation, look at what your goal is, and see if this approach I'm about to do is the best way to get me to that result. But I'm not telling you that it's always 100%. We are human. We will get pissed. People will say certain things that will hit our buttons, right? And we will go off about that.
And we fall short of our goal.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, no, and I want to give a big shout out to Oz for even engaging in this particular questioning of his methods, because I think it, first of all, it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there as a person who's asking people like, hey man, you want to have a conversation about this? A lot of people are like, you know, fuck you. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people tell you to go fuck yourself, right? Like, I'm not talking about that. Like, so it's almost like being a cold caller, where it's like you're trying to engage intellectually with people who have no interest in doing that. That takes balls.
It does.
You know
It really does.
Talking to random motherfuckers. It's like that takes
really
nuts. So, you know, I mean, it's not always going to go well. I'm sure you're going to run into your fair share of people who are going to trigger you. I'm just questioning, I guess, are there more methods to the madness is all I'm questioning.
There's always well, I won't say there's always better methods, but there's better approaches to the methods, because some methods are pretty reliable or even close to concrete, right? But it's how we approach them, how we utilize them.
Right.
And in that conversation, you know, the more I'm listening, the more I'm thinking about it. Greydon, I do appreciate your pushback. I do, because it challenges me and makes me think. But I'm just gonna say it right here and right now. As much as I appreciate it, there's not a goddamn thing I would have changed. There's not a goddamn thing. There's not.
That's why it takes other people.
Because, and here's why. I'm never going to allow willful ignorance to be an excuse for someone to hate someone else, or for someone to wish harm or do harm on to someone else. I'm never going to give them that pass. I'm never going to give them that free ticket. And that's what they're looking for. Those motherfuckers, like what I was talking to that night, they want that free pass. They want to have that free ticket to continue to act the way they act and treat people the way they treat people. And nobody really challenge it. Because why? White America. But guess what? I don't do that shit. I don't play that shit. Fuck you.
I think some of it too is there was a certain rebranding that took place over the last few years where you would have people with their $20 haircuts, brand new suit, changing certain words, you know, to fit that seems more accommodating, say some of the most virulently racist shit, but they look calm and they clean and they got a tie on straight and they're not angry. They don't have the angry looks on their faces. There's been a remarketing of like a rebranding of that sort of thing. And I've observed it for a while, and it does work though, because if the person, and I think this is towards Greydon's point, that person comes across as calm, he gives the appearance of rationality, right? So on the his outward appearance, when he approaches people and how he presents, people don't see any harm in that. They don't see any harm in that. And that allows them to reach more people that way. I think what Greydon's saying is if you take a cue from how they trying to rebrand and they're reaching more people with their new tactic, new look, they're not coming out here chewing tobacco with a hood. No, they ain't doing that no more. They got this nice suit on and they coming out. No, we can all reason with each other. I just don't think you guys should be here. Like, you take a page from their book, their tactic. They're reaching more people because they're coming across as rational, as non-threatening, even, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually, I know me. I'm 6'1", 240 pounds. My life, I've had to accommodate my approach and presentation, or it could get dark for me, right?
To look less threatening.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's Gray's overall point with that. Like, those folks rebranded, and now a lot of them aren't coming off like that. Well, but that's a tactic. That's a tactic.
But if I'll say this, and I'll shut up because I know we got to wrap up soon. If like the rebranding of it, yes, because before COVID, I was in corporate America. I had a badass job. I was in leadership. I made tons of fucking money. I was in corporate America, and I understand that it's been not just rebranded, but redressed.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
And it looks different.
It looked different.
It's not swastikas and tattoos and bald heads and all that anymore. It's the suit jacket and you never know it. You might be working for the motherfucker, right? You might be working for that motherfucker and you don't even know it. But the person I was talking to was not that. They were not part of the rebranding or redressing. There was the bald head and the tattoos everywhere and the tattoo under the eye with the cross. You know, it was the stereotypical, you know, skinhead looking Nazi motherfucker. You know, and as soon as that shit, like, and that's why I said it early on, fell out of it, like, just so easily fell out of his mouth. I'm like, you're just a piece of shit. You're just a piece of shit. And I don't patty cake that shit. I don't play nice with that shit. I don't pretend like I'm gonna be nice to that. No,
that doesn't bother you.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back on that all day, every day. And I don't know if you guys, I know everybody in the chat does, but Jen and I are dating. I did not know that. I'm, you know, so of course, when you say those things, not only do I take it personal as a human being, as a skeptic, as an atheist, as a man, my own person, but then for the woman that I love and I care about, like, no, fuck you.
No, I get it. Nobody's talking crazy to my wife and couching it in logic. That ain't happening. that ain't happening. So I get it.
Not today, Junior.
It's a good discussion.
Not my wife.
Where do we go from here? How do we lead into it? Where we go?
So, everybody, go ahead. Sorry, Tombstone.
No, I was about to say, let's. There's a segue into the comic book from this. I know there is. You guys are experienced broadcasters. We can find it. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Go ahead, Oz.
Well, I was gonna say, Tombstone. Well, and Greatest creators. Is there a segue from this conversation into the comic book, or the comic? Not just the comic book, the whole venture. You guys have been working 8 years now. Is there a segue where we can jump into this and promote your guys' work? Because I done fucked this shit.
No, I don't think that you did. I mean,
I don't think you did either.
I don't think that you did.
I don't think you did either.
It's a healthy conversation to have. I think it's better that there aren't one consensus view. Well, the last thing I would want there to be is just one homogenized viewpoint here. And this is where I think things are important the last thing I will say is I really want people to think about the nature of what we're talking about here. It's a different thing to confront someone over what they did as opposed to what they think, regardless of how repugnant it is. We're talking about policing thought. And me personally, regardless of what you think, just don't put your hands on me. You can go home to your people. I'm going to go home to my people. But I'm also a combat veteran. So I've seen enough combat. I'm not trying to just find my way into just combat. Now, if you come knocking, I'll always answer that door. But I always feel like you got to knock. I mean, you got to really knock on that door. You know, you can't just run up and, you know, do a little knock and run off or something like that. No, what is it, a ditch and dash or whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? So that's my point. I totally understand. Confront it. Tell the guy to go fuck himself. Totally. But, you know.
But Greydon, here's my pushback. I know we're trying to wrap. Bro. But this is my pushback on this. Whether it's this conversation or others I've had when it comes to what people think or believe, is their thoughts and their beliefs influence or impact or even drive their decision making and their behavior. That's where we get in trouble.
Right, but then the question is always going to be, who are you to police that in other people?
Oh, I'm not trying to police it. I'm just telling you to fuck off. Stay away from me.
Right. But what I'm saying is you started off by asking this person what he believed, right?
Yeah, until he told me that he
told you what he believed.
He
may have taken it a roundabout way. He may have taken to tell you what he actually believed at 2 hours, right? You guys had this conversation and then it spilled out of his mouth. People will tell you who they are if you ask them.
Yeah, sure.
Right. I don't know about you guys, but I make a very sound decision, and no matter what the context is. If someone is toxic, I make a very sound decision that I disclude them from my life.
Oh no, I don't listen. Just somebody. Look, I grew up on the west side of Baltimore. A lot of the friends that I grew up with, when I changed my life, they didn't change theirs.
You know,
they became very, very toxic, and they are no longer in my circle. Why? Because I have a finite amount of time on Earth and a finite amount of energy. Who I choose to engage with, I have to be picky with that, because if you allow toxic people in your circle, they will eventually poison everything there. I've seen it firsthand, and I've gotten rid of those type of people, so that my experience now tells me there's red flags. I see the red flag. Oh, nah, B, you gotta find something else to do with your time, but it's not going to be to spend it with me, and especially not around mine, because if that toxic stuff washes over on my kids, or my wife, or my brothers, it's going to be an issue. Because like you, Oz, like I do have a very explosive response to certain things. And because of the way I grew up, I'm kind of a protector. Don't mess with my folks. Don't mess with my folks. So I understand what you mean by the toxic shit. I don't allow that in my circle. Nah.
All right, and I did it again, and I'm going to shut the fuck up.
You did. I was trying to help you.
God damn it. God fucking motherfucking damn it. All right, shut up. Jena, take this shit over and do it.
Before that, we have a super chat and 2 new members to the channel.
Oh, that's
so
dope.
You know what we do?
Oh, God damn it. Hold on. I get it. Fuck.
Scroll on up.
So we'll do the super chat first. God fucking damn it. I fucked this whole shit up all night. God damn it.
Nah, don't beat yourself up, bro. I found this to be a great conversation.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't know about you. I found this to be a great conversation.
Honestly, I did not expect this.
I was on an island over here.
No, you're not. Not at all. I appreciate what you said. Oh,
right,
sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Great Tombstone. This is what we do for super chats right here. You gotta take a drink.
drinking, I would have had a bowl pack.
Sipping on gin and juice. Put my mind in my money, in my money, in my money. All right.
There we go.
Super chat.
Secular Sakai, $5. What you're saying is very true, unfortunately, and it's been around for a while. Jared Taylor and American Renaissance is a classic example. Well said.
All right, let me find the other.
Shane the Billowitz became a channel member.
Oh, this
Took a
guy.
minute. That took a minute.
Sorry, Shane, I ran out of drink. So you're fucked. And then there was another one.
You got anything to pack over there, Greydon?
Man,
You looking?
He said, man. We had
I
another.
don't know. We were drinking.
We hey, here at Tang Gang, we stayed drinking.
We do.
There's another one, and no, I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah. Sipping on gin and juice.
Yes, thank you, Shane. Yeah, thank you, Shane Billowitz. Thank you, Megan. And if you got any extra money, be sure to become patrons of these fine gentlemen. I'm gonna post it in the chat right now as I strive to wrap this show up.
Thank you so much.
No, appreciate both of you. Let's allow at least another 5 minutes for you to both just give us a summary of what you do, and I'll share the shared channel that you both have, Majestic Comics, and of course the mission as far as with the Patreon subscribers, getting to that 420 by 420, just building upon garnering that support to build your brand. Both of you just speak on that.
Great.
I mean, what we do is we just try to provoke thought with creativity. That's all we've ever tried to do. That's all I've ever tried to do. And, you know, with Majestic, we try to create a reality where, you know, people can have, you know, interesting conversations about interesting things in a fantastic reality. So I hope that we were successful in drawing people in, and I hope that people who are drawn in stay for the long haul and are able to take the journey with us.
Hell yeah.
Just a really short synopsis of the overall story for people who don't know. It's basically about two friends from vastly different worlds. They come from different civilizations. They have different philosophies. They argue kind of constantly because what the other person believes and versus what his friend believes about how to conduct yourself in life, period, is completely different. One is a thinker.
Basically, we just gave you an example of the argument that Alec had in the comic book. What you just saw between me and Oz is basically what takes place in the comic book on a larger omniversal scale.
Absolutely.
So if you're interested in that level of argument in a comic book form, as well as some great, fantastic action, then the comic book is what you're looking for.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Absolutely. So come check us out. And again, I've said this before. This is not a vanity project. I'm an actual comic book geek. All right. So it was no way that I was going to be a part of, or Greydon was going to be a part of, anything that wasn't an authentic experience with the writing, with the artwork. It took us a while to even come up with the designs of the characters. It took us a while. I'm telling you, we have thousands of years of backstory lore for these two characters. That's how deep we dove into this creative process.
Wow. 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've got records going back 9 years.
Yeah, some of the early conceptual stuff. Yeah, I've seen it in the Google Drive. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean,
Wow.
we went to the Reason Rally. We were already starting to build this.
Mm-hmm.
The first Reason Rally, not the second one.
Yep.
Mm.
I'll get
And
there to be another one. But
And in addition, like I mentioned, you have another individual that purely does the artwork for this.
Yes.
Um, I mean, it's all three of your own business. It's all your own. It's completely under you. And again, I dial back to the last stream, the last video you had on your Majestic Comics channel, where you Greydon, like you were hard pressed. I reckon I saw that when you had stressed this, like you're really hard pressed about, forming this business and not having it under just your name. You really wanted it to be all three of you. You really wanted to strive for that, because this is a project and work and passion and labor of love from all three of you, and it shows. And I think that's something that should be pushed and recognized. The creativity, the music behind it, all of it, the hard work that all three of you do is powerful, and it's awesome work.
we appreciate it. One thing I
Appreciate
will say about that is just there would have been no way I could have taken credit for the work that has gone into this. I mean, I've contributed my 33%, like the other two guys have, and the three of us have kind of put this together. Together. There's no, you can't say one person has done more than the other. It's
Right.
like Tombstone, does all of the vetting of the story and the research and the lore consistency and all the stuff that makes sure that we don't cross storylines and contradictions and all that stuff. And Joseph's doing all the art and he's killing it with the drawing. And it's like, and I'm trying to make sure that the business is tight. Like, we're all doing this all together, and we've always been that way.
Yeah.
So for me to have this under my name and be like, oh, this is a Greydon Square project. Nah, this isn't. This is more than that. This is something that is even something beyond Grand Unified, because we've always thought about this even being separate from Grand Unified. Grand Unified, yes, as a culture and a community is what it is. We wanted this to be an independent business for what it was.
Right. And shout out to Joseph Arnold too for his spectacular. Like, we wouldn't have the stuff that we do have from a visual standpoint if not for him. He's a huge, that's why we call him, his nickname, Structure, because he put the structure of all of this together. We had a story,
Right.
We had characters, but then he came in. He's experienced. He's been in the indie comic book industry for quite some time. So he had the experience that while I was a consumer of the product, it is different on the other side, in the production side of it. It's completely different. And I learned so much from him, really just in a classic example in the last few months of certain things he showed us of why we read comic books the way we read them. I had no idea that it was an actual science to it, just instinctively to me. But no, it's a reason why the placement of the word bubbles and the dialogue and the pictures and all of that's a science. It's a science to all of that. And got to give him a shout out, because like I said, I continue to learn from him daily. And he continues to amaze me daily with the level of his artwork and how quick he is. This cover on the shirt, he drew this. He drew this while we were sitting there telling him what we wanted for the cover.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Wow.
You know what we wanted for the cover, and he was like, we wasn't paying any attention to him. Like what he was doing, we were just lost in thought. And then when we were done, he was like, "You mean like this?" He's amazing.
No, Structure is one of the greatest artists I've ever seen. Like he's absolutely stunning, and his interior design work for all the characters. We have another person that we work with named Gabriel Sandoval, who does all of our color, who's also amazing as well.
Amazing.
But without Structure's structure, I mean, we wouldn't have anything. And he is that. He's given structure to our reality, and that's why we call him that.
Absolutely.
He's a good dude. That's a real good dude. We're proud to have him a part of the team. I've worked, Tombstone's my brother. Like we worked together our whole lives. But Structure came into this later on, and he was able to kind of be like, "Hey, listen, I know I'm the third guy coming into this, but hopefully I can bring your story to life." And he was able to do that. So we're forever appreciative of him.
Absolutely.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
before Jena wraps it up, so I don't take us down to another 3-hour conversation, I'll just say, if you ever need anybody that I'm a professional at drawing stickmen. If you ever need that, I'm available. And I'm excellent. I'm excellent. I'm excellent.
When our characters enter the Stickman universe.
Yeah.
That will be Oz's cameo.
I thought about that. I didn't know. Yeah.
I'm your dude. I'm your dude. But then on the hip hop side, if you guys are ever working on something, a project, whether it's I actually love to write. I love to MC, but obviously I love to DJ as well. Anything, I'm always there, and I do pro bono shit. Like I don't,
Bro, that remix you did for the intro,
it was real
crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, you might want to send.
Do you know? And I will shoot more fire up his ass right now, because he literally less than an hour before going live, I don't know if he had jumped out of the shower or whatever. He had texted me and was like, all right, I'll be ready soon, but I think I'm going to do something different with the intro. So I'm going to mix this up real quick and I'll see you there. And I'm like, okay, do you, boo? He literally did that less than an hour from going live. I was like, wow.
That was exceptional.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know, it's funny because I was here and I was like, wait a minute, I've never heard this version.
Right.
It's remixed.
Right.
Because you know that it's like the older you get, the younger you sound. You're like, yo, I can't believe I sounded like that. That was 20 years ago.
Right.
You know,
it was amazing. You're gonna have to send us.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send us that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I'll clean up because Jenna's not lying. It was like I jumped out of the shower and I was like, I don't know why this.
Don't clean it up too much.
As a DJ, I don't know why this just hit me, but I need to do like a mashup for the streams about to start video that we have. I need to do a mashup, and it wasn't even an hour. By the time I actually get my shit set up, it was like 30 minutes, and I'm like,
that shit was that was amazing.
Well, don't clean it up too much. I really like what you have.
Okay, we don't want it to sound like what did that you say before, Greydon? Sometimes people they clean up a track so much. As they sterilize, it sound like it was recorded in the hospital.
Yeah, it sounds like it was recorded in the hospital.
That's true.
You can't do that.
That's true.
You gotta leave some of those flaws in there, bro. That shit is hot.
That's
right.
True. That's true.
Right.
But yeah, go in the future. Any hip hop stuff you guys do as far as writing or DJing, whatever. I'll do. I'm pro bono. I'm pro no.
You got our email, MajesticComics Inc@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So yeah,
got it. Oh, by all means, we'll be bugging y'all. You have to come back now after that beautiful 3-hour discussion we had. No, honestly, by all means, honestly, I know obviously the chat enjoyed it. They have their own separate kind of conversation going on still from it.
Right.
No, but this is what we do. This is pretty much the whole soul of, if I had to borrow a word, the whole soul of this show. Because me and Oz go back and forth on all things, and this is our bread and butter, because we've come from similar backgrounds, and this is the shit we like to talk about. And to enjoy that even more with other people, new faces, by all means, please come back.
Awesome
Come back. Yeah. But Tombstone, the Deadman, I appreciate your words of wisdom and your wisdom as a whole. Greydon, I know myself and the rest of the chat appreciate your 9,000 monitors, but also your words of wisdom. That's all they've been talking about. Like, he legit has 9 monitors.
Hey, sometimes you gotta know when. Well, yeah. All at once.
This is not even all. He wants more.
I was like, yeah, I do have 9.
Where do you fit?
He wants more. He wants more.
Yeah, I do.
I'm gonna be fine and comfy on the floor with my laptop.
By the way, I have a way to create even more screen real estate. Watch, I got this. Meet me in the office, Tombstone.
Okay.
Oh boy. Anyway, but I'll throw the links out for your shared channel and your Patreon. Thank you both again so much for sticking with us. And wow, I'm like, I was nervous, but this was awesome. Thank you for agreeing. Please come back. Oz, any final words, thoughts?
No, I muted myself so that I didn't start another 3-hour discussion.
Fair enough. On that note, run that sexy new mix you got, and then we'll sign off. Have a good night, Al.
And it says stream starting soon, but it's streams now ending. So
We're leaving.
Peace out. Tombstone, great. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely appreciate you
All
having us.
right.
I know my destiny.
Here's the real reason I'm not a Muslim. Children, zero heroin and vomit used to mug 'em. Listen, Muhammad was taking children as wives. One he married at 6 and consummated at 9. He was somewhere in his 50s trying to get in and draw. She wasn't even 10 yet, still playing with dolls. So they try to hit me with the older times were different, rationalizing atrocities. Now you sound like Christians. I charge the views on women as sickening. Either update the culture or just fade into history. But either way, this looks like imprisonment. The worst is that the prisoners don't know that they're prisoners. Even defend the tactics that are used to imprison them. Or conquer minds, trying to conquer brother minds, selling our heroes.
I know my destiny.
To rock with these fam. If I never get $1 million, I settle for these fans. Cause at least with y'all I never have to change who I am. Record label off the table, I'ma stay my own man. Cause I rock with gold and rock with these fam. If I never get $1 million, I settle for these fans. Cause at least with y'all I never have to change who I am. Record label off the table, I'ma stay my own